So in 2018, my word of the year was boundaries. So I don't really know who came up with the concept of the word of the year. I feel like it was an author, and I'll try to look that up and we'll get that into the video. Oh, before I forget, I do want to say a huge thank you to my editor. You may have noticed, if you watch my doll channel, that my editing on the doll channel is very bad. And that over here, editing with a sense of humor and a sense of caring and love for the subject matter and for you, the viewers. And that is because Elvira from the Doll Circle is my editor. And I am so honored to be working with her on this project. And I wanted to give her a huge shout out for doing this with me. I would suggest y'all get a cup of tea, get a snack, get some water, get a blanket, get cozy, or, you know, go for a walk and just pop in your headphones. You'll miss some of Elvira's really cute, funny little things that she throws in, but you won't miss the awesome audio that is me. But anyway, this is gonna be a long one is what I'm trying to say. Okay. And my tea's already kind of cooling off, so this is gonna be. Why in 2018 did I do that? I think it will help to explain what boundaries are, what it means, and why they are so important to us. So in 2017, for those of you who don't know, I run a company called Family Video Network. Okay, I own it, I started it. It's called Family Video Network. And I support a ton of family and kids YouTube creators. Now, a very small amount of them are in my actual network and that I work together with them, and they pay me a little bit of money for that service. Most of these people actually pay me nothing, and I am just there to support this community, and because I really care about it, and I care about the kids that watch, and I care about the kids that make videos, and it's a whole thing, okay? So what I need to make clear to you is there are hundreds of people out there that do not pay me for my help. I'm fine with that. I am fine with that. But what I discovered in 2017 was Elsa Gate. This is where, I don't know, a bunch of very weird people and children decided that Spider-Man and Elsa having a baby together would make for great comedy videos for kids. And so it was a whole thing, and it was huge, and it was disastrous. And we'll put a link down below to, I think there's actually a Wikipedia page for Elsa Gate that explains it. That year in 2017, I had no boundaries. I really hadn't, I mean, I had started to explore the concept of boundaries, and I knew I should have boundaries, but I had no boundaries, okay? And I certainly had no boundaries with any of the people in the YouTube world, none whatsoever, okay? And so as a result, people thought it was okay, because I never said that it wasn't, I never indicated that it wasn't. I made sure I was always there. They thought it was okay to call, text, message me any time of the day or night, middle of the night, 6 a.m., 8 o'clock at night, and basically be freaking out. And sometimes they just needed someone to freak out to or with. And I was there for them. And I made sure I was always there for them. I was always there for them. I was always there for them. And because I didn't have boundaries, because I did not value myself. And I thought that because I was always there for them, because I was always there to help people, that made me a good person, that made me an important person, a valuable person. It meant that I had worth. They needed me. They needed me, so I had worth. I did not yet understand, and it's still something I grapple with, we've talked about it in early videos on this channel, that just by being alive, I am worthy. I did not get that. Now, for me, a lot of the help I've had with this has come from my faith. I am Christian, and I don't want to, I know I have people with all different levels of belief that watch, so I don't want to just go in one direction. But the idea that I am a human being with a soul or a spirit or whatever it is that you call this animated, because, you know, it leaves and then you stop working. So there's something in here, right? There's something running the engine. For me, it's a soul. I'm a human being with a soul. Right there, that makes me worthy. That makes me a valuable person just because I am. That's all you have to do. And you're like, look, there are some people who are complete shit, Melissa. They're not worth anything. Let's roll that back for a second. Before we get into the talk about boundaries, and we are going to talk about problematic people in our lives, there's something that I feel really strongly about because it has helped me with forgiveness and dealing with my own trauma. And that's this really important message. Really, every human being has value. Every human being is worthy of your love. Now, does that mean that you have to have a relationship with them? No. But can you send love out to them? Yes. Why would I say that when there are so many bad people in the world? And I'm saying that because what I know to be true, I'm going to be 54 in 2 weeks. What I know to be true is I've met a lot of complicated people in my life. Some of them have been my parents, and grandparents and siblings and different people. Even bad people are worthy because they weren't born bad. Trauma twisted them into whatever they are today. Everyone. You're like, Melissa, no, Melissa, no, not everyone. No, everyone. But somewhere along the line in life, people get twisted, and some people get really twisted. And you are allowed to create a boundary that removes toxic, bad people from your life, people that trigger you. You are allowed to do that. You are allowed to just set boundaries about your availability. So let's go back. So 2017, I'm completely collapsing physically, mentally, emotionally under the weight of all of these other people. People are calling, I'm not sleeping. I'm getting texts in the middle of the night. I spent Thanksgiving on the phone with YouTube. It was an absolutely out of control time for me. And I went into 2018 so broken down and feeling completely inadequate and like a complete failure. Because I felt like it was my job to protect all these people and I didn't protect them. It was my job to protect the people on the other side of the screen and I didn't do that. Well, who the heck made me the protector of everyone on YouTube? No one. That was me. That was me making stuff up in my head. I needed to understand and learn about boundaries. So I made the word for 2018 boundaries. And I remember talking to my friend Robin, because we always talk about what our word of the year is going to be. And I was like, this year I am going to be boundary woman. You know, it's like I wanted her to draw me a little superhero that said boundary woman on it. And so what did I do? I turned off notifications on everything because that's a boundary I'm setting. I do not want my phone just constantly telling me that people are trying to get in touch with me. I don't want to know when I get an email. I don't want to know when I get a message on Facebook. The only thing that I still get notifications for are phone calls and texts, and I do not get them between the hours of 9 p.m. and 9 a.m. Do not disturb is one of the greatest things you can turn on. I don't know if Android phones have it, but iPhones. First boundary you can set is set up some do not disturb time on your phone. It could be during the day. Like maybe you just, while you're at work, you just like, I need to focus. I can't. People are always texting me, well, set up do not disturb. It still comes in, you just don't get notified. And then you can choose to look when you want to look, okay? It's wonderful. And then I turned off notifications on everything else. So DMs that I get on everywhere, I don't know about them until at the point in the day where I choose to go check to see if I have messages. That's a boundary. That's a really easy boundary. What you need to set up boundaries around are things that hurt you, things that trigger you, things that are going to distract you at a time when you do not need or want to be distracted. Things you just don't like. Did I say things that are going to make you angry? Might have said that already. Anything that is going to make you feel in a way that you do not want to feel, unless it's joy. Don't set up a boundary against joy. Don't do that to yourself. But I'm talking about the quote unquote negative stuff that comes in. Just set up boundaries somehow. Figure out what your boundaries are. Did you know you can snooze people on Facebook? You can just snooze them for 30 days. They don't know you did it. You just don't see their posts. And look, I did this in 2018. Thank God I knew to do that for 2020 and 21 and just every year in between. So what I want you to do, as we're talking about boundaries today, is I want you to maybe take notes in your phone or write it down. I'm a notebook person. I have my notebooks everywhere. But I want you to think about A person that maybe you're struggling with, don't pick somebody like really like traumatic, okay? Let's just start with somebody easy. So we can, got baby steps, build your way up to boundaries. Someone who, you know, little slights, they hurt you in some way, or they make you angry, or they trigger you, or they tick you off, or just, you know, some annoying person in your life, okay? And I want you to then write down the list, make a list of the ways that they hurt you, trigger you, make you angry, annoy you, whatever. Okay, make a list. You're like, well, this sounds very life-affirming and positive. Hey, sometimes we need to make lists of crappy stuff to get rid of the crappy stuff because we need to understand that it's happening. So when you go through that list, and then you stop and you're like, okay, I think I got it all out. Now look through it. It might be several pages long if it's someone related to you. Like I could write a whole book on some people in my family, okay? Now look at it and say, what are some boundaries I could put in place? Shield me from some of this. What are some boundaries? Your boundaries, your shield, okay? We want to keep from getting in because you deserve that. You're worthy of it. You're worthy of having a life without people constantly ticking you off. What kind of boundaries can you set up? Well, let's talk about boundaries I've set up because those are the ones I understand. Okay, so we talked about turning off notifications, right? We've talked about unfollowing people, muting people, snoozing people. What about people in real life? I have set some really great boundaries around not seeing people. Now, COVID gave us a lot of time to not see people. And so I think that it has also given many people time to stop and consider, how many people do I really need in my life? How many people do I really want to spend Thanksgiving with or Christmas, or do I really want to go out on New Year's Eve? I mean, last year, you know, I stayed home and I did my own thing. I really enjoyed that. I think it's given people time to think about stuff that they used to feel obligated to do, gatherings and things and people that they used to feel obligated to see that they didn't see. Notice how in those ways, there's less stress because they didn't do these things or interact with these people. And then the smart thing to do as we come out of this is to not throw yourself right back out there and start doing everything all over again. Look at it. What boundaries did COVID create for you that you would like to continue? So maybe it is, you know what? I really enjoyed being alone on Christmas Eve last year. Like maybe that's a thing for you. It was just I really enjoyed it. So maybe a boundary is I'm going to spend Christmas Eve on my own until I don't want to. You're like, well, how do I tell my family? You just tell them. You're like, oh, no, that's going to be a shitstorm. It's not as much of a shitstorm as you think it's going to be. You just let people know that for my own health and well-being, I'm still keeping the holidays and the get-togethers on the smaller side, or like just not doing some of them. And so, you know what, I'll see you guys Christmas Day, or I'll see you New Year's Day, or whatever other time you're going to see them. But, you know, last year I spent Christmas Eve alone and I actually really enjoyed it. And it was really a good time for me. And I'm going to do that again. You're like, but they're going to be mad at me. Anyone who would be mad at you for doing something good for yourself is a person you need a boundary with. Clearly. You're like, but my mom's going to be so mad. Yeah, she might be. She might be. And when you tell her that you're doing it for your own good, she might say all kinds of hurtful things. Well, you clearly need a boundary with her. Clearly. Because if she would say hurtful things to you, then there's a chance that she says hurtful things on the regular to you, which means that she is someone you need to spend less time around. But it's my mother. Yes, I know. That's a hard boundary. It's a really hard boundary. Boundaries with parents, siblings. Siblings not so hard. I think a lot of us have worked out the siblings, but some of us haven't. But boundaries with parents are hard. But they're important. They're important because we often feel like our parents gave us life or adopted us or took us in, put a roof over our head, did all of these things for us, and therefore we owe them our existence boundary-free. We think that, well, they gave me life or they fed me and put a roof over my head. I can't have boundaries with them. No, they own me. No, they don't. No, they don't. They don't own you. Should you respect and honor and be grateful that you were given life? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But I'm telling you this as a parent. I do not own my child. And as much as it would hurt me if my child said, I don't want to spend the holidays with you because for my own mental health, I need to do something else, I would be like, wow, okay. Not going to say that doesn't hurt, but I want what's best for you. And if that's what you feel like is best for you, then that's what I want for you. And I love you. Now, I'm not saying that because I'm a great parent. I'm saying that because I've gone through 18 years of therapy about being a parent and what that means. And I am unlearning things that were taught to me by generations of parents before me. And so I know that I don't own my child. A lot of parents don't realize that. They don't realize that. But your parents don't own you. Your family doesn't own you. You do not owe your family a boundary-free relationship. As a matter of fact, your family is probably the group of people you need to have the most clear boundaries with. So what other kinds of boundaries? Okay, so, all right, not around the holidays. What other kind of boundaries can you set? So your phone is ringing, and it's a person that you know is a suck on your soul. Or it's a drama. You know it's going to be drama. You know, you're looking at it and you're thinking, you're already having stress looking at the phone ringing. But I have to pick up the phone. Why do you have to pick up the phone? Well, because they're in need. Okay. I'm there for a lot of people. Okay. But I've worked really hard on my boundaries. Sometimes, and I love that, by the way, I just need to jump in here. If you call me without texting me first, what is wrong with you? But people still do that. But particularly family. But, you know, I like it when people text me first because it gives me a boundary when they say, do you have a minute? And I can say, oh, yeah, this person's a bag of kittens. They're going to need, all right. You know what? Okay, I can't deal with that right now. I need to prep for this, or I need to deal with something else, or I still didn't meditate today, or I'm at work, can't deal with this at work. You respond back. Sorry, I'm not available right now. Can we talk at 3? Are you available at 4? Can it wait till tomorrow? Okay. Same thing when the phone rings, because for some reason they didn't text you first to check to see if it was okay to call you. When the phone rings, you do not have to pick it up. And then sometimes people follow up the unpretexted phone call with a post-phone call text. Because they're like, I know you're there. So like they call, you don't answer the phone, they leave you a voicemail. It's like, I really need to talk to you. Can you call me back as soon as possible? It's really important. I just really need someone to talk to. Okay. And then they follow up with a text. It's like, hey, are you there? I really need to talk to someone. And you're like, Melissa, how can I not pick up the phone? How can I turn my back on that person? I'm going to tell you right now, you can't help anyone until you get in the right frame of mind. You can't. I can't make these videos until I get myself in the right frame of mind. I need to get my crap together so that I can try to help you guys via this video medium that we're doing. So picking up the phone when it's ringing and it's someone that you know is going to be in some way just, right? I don't even know what the word is. For some people, you're just like, you see the phone ringing and you're like, oh my God, I can't right now. Well, if you can't right now, then don't. You're like, but I owe them. I don't know that you owe anybody, but you're like, but I'm a good person. I help people. I'm a very good person. I help people. But now I help people with boundaries. And because I help people with boundaries, because I have created those boundaries, I am stronger. I am more level-headed. I am more able to help them because I have created this little bit of a wall around me. It's not an impenetrable wall. People can get in. People can love me. Don't worry. There's gates. But there is a boundary around me with certain people in certain situations where I can get myself together so that I can be of the highest service to them. I can't do that if I'm driving in the car and there's kids screaming in the back seat, and then, you know, my cousin calls and I'm like, oh, it's, you know, if you pick up that call then, right, they're going to be going on about all of their stuff. You're just not in the right place to have that conversation with them and be helpful. So what you might end up doing is you might end up feeding whatever negativity they're coming to you with instead of helping them. Feeding someone's negativity never actually helps them. Listening to them and letting them vent, yes, that helps. That's another boundary. Okay? Another boundary that I have had to set up for myself is around when someone comes to me either with gossip, they're like, I got tea. You know I love tea, right? And I love gossip. But I've had to set a boundary to keep it out of my life. It's a painful one. But the reason I had to do that is because gossip is almost always mean-spirited. And I need to not churn that up inside of myself. So when someone texts me, I have tea, call me, I can either ignore the text, I can text back and be like, hey, I'm not in a tea frame of mind today. Or I can say, you know what, I can talk to you later, okay? And then, like, if you have to talk to the person who has tea or has gossip or has an issue, and you finally get on the call or sit down with them over a cup of coffee or whatever. I love the distance that COVID gave us. I have to say that. Now that I have to actually be with people again, it is a little bit harder, but I'm also getting really good at it. So you need to then, now I'm in the conversation. What are my boundaries here? Your boundaries are so it's someone calling to complain to you about something that someone you both mutually know, and this person has been a complete jackass, okay? And your friend, your cousin, your sister, your mother, your brother, your spouse, whatever, okay? They're calling to tell you about, you will not believe what blank, this is just, and they go off, right? And they're talking to you about how they feel about it, and they're so upset, and they're so angry, and all this stuff, and it's just, right? And they ramp up. You ever notice how people just like start charging when they're going there? Now, there's two choices here. There's two. One is, we can go there with them. And I used to do that all the time. If it was gossip, I was in there, like, yeah, tell me more. Oh my God, you know what else? Oh, I know something they did, okay? And there's like an energy, but it's not a good energy. You know it when you feel it. You're feeling some sort of energy and you're really, that's not good energy. That's probably not healthy energy if it feels like, it's not good, right? And then there's the other thing where you start getting irate and angry for them and with them. You're like, that is so effed up. Like, what the heck? I cannot believe it. Oh my God. You know what? If I were there, I would have said that. You know what? You should tell them this and da da da. And so you get angry with them. Are you helping? Or are you just feeding the fire? That's where a boundary comes in. You can feed the fire. You can get agita, which is like heartburn, for those of you who don't know. You can get all upset on your own, with them, for them. You can then start, because this always happens to me, other people's stuff, I get involved in their stuff, and then suddenly I am triggered on all my stuff, and then I'm having feelings for them, I'm having feelings for me. None of these are good feelings. And now I'm in a bad place. Because remember, I'm a human being that lives constantly with depression and anxiety. They're always kind of there. So boundaries are super important, because if I let myself go into that spiraling rabbit hole from hell, you can be darn sure I am damaging my own mental health in the process. Okay? So the boundary is, wow, oh my gosh, that sounds like it was really hard for you. How are you feeling right now? Yeah, I mean, it sounds like you're really angry. Yeah. No, I understand that. Yeah. You can even tell someone they have a right to be angry. You can say, no, I think you absolutely have a right to be angry. And slowly, by just affirming their feelings and holding space for them, without ever jumping into the fray, you're helping them. Because you're helping them to process the negative emotions while you have a wall in front of you that prevents those negative emotions from becoming your negative emotions. Oh, I don't think I can do that. okay, it takes tons of practice. I'm still not great at it. I can still very easily fall on this one, but I'm learning. I'm learning how to, help friends when they're grieving and not let, it used to be a problem for me because there has been a lot of loss in my life and a lot of grief. And I used to have a problem that when people would talk to me about their grief and I wanted to be there for them to help them, that it would trigger my own grief responses, and those feelings would start to come up again. Now, I don't know that there's any boundary that can keep that away completely, but one of the ways for me that helps me to prevent that from happening is to just stay focused on the person and almost keep repeating back to them what they're saying, instead of saying, I could start going into, well, when I lost my dad, yeah, it was really sudden, and I can share my experience. It's still really hard for me to share my experience, strength, and hope without getting sucked into my pain. So I'm still working on that. But I'm working on it. But what I can do is affirm the other person's feelings. Be there on the other end of the phone, or there in the car, coffee shop, Barnes & Noble, in the car, wherever, and hear them and say, gosh, that sounds so hard. Well, how are you feeling right now? What are you thinking? What are you thinking you need to do? Okay. Are there other things, other options maybe? Like maybe somebody, when you say, what are you thinking you should do? And they're like, I'm going to go kick their ass. Maybe you're like, okay, that's probably not good. But sometimes that is the feeling that they're having right now. You're like, okay, yeah, all right, I can understand that. What else do you think you could do? What other ideas do you have? Because you can't jump in there and be like, yeah, you should go kick their ass. That's not productive, right? Those are not good. That's not helping. It's not helping them and it's not helping you. The other really great thing about boundaries is that they also protect people from you. So, if you have a lot in common with me, then I suspect that when you let down some boundaries or don't have some boundaries, you can say some really mean, hurtful stuff. A lot of you just went, right. Melissa, mommy can be mean and hurtful. Yeah. So here's what I learned to say over a decade ago. Actually, you know what? It's longer than that. Because my husband and I made a conscious decision to never fight with each other. And it's because we both know that we have bad tempers. And so in our house, and this is weird, we don't raise our voices to each other. Not to my husband, not to my son, not our son to us. My son never hears us yell. And if when we do lose our temper about somebody outside the house, if that does happen, it's rare, and we've always talked to Caden about it. Even now, we just had something recently happen where my husband his office is abuts Caden's room, and he was having a day. And he lost his temper. He hung up the phone and he just lost his temper. And he slammed the phone and he was just ticked and he was just kind of raising his voice to no one just to get it out. And I was like, Caden's in the other room. Okay. So later on that night, when we were getting dinner ready, we just did a quick check-in with Caden and said, hey, I know Daddy kind of got a little loud this afternoon. How do you feel about that? And, he's 18 now, so he's like, and I knew something about work because I could hear him talking about compressors work, yeah. No, I'm good. It's okay. Okay, we just wanted to make sure you understood that Daddy wasn't yelling at me, and, he wasn't actually yelling at anybody, but, sometimes you just need to get stuff out. Caden was like, yeah, I get that. So how the heck do you not yell at each other? And, people must disagree. Oh, hell yeah. So my husband does it by going completely silent. And usually he'll leave the house. Because of my disability, leaving the house is very often not an option for me. So for me, Caden will just go up and go in his room. And God, that kid is so self-aware and he's got such great boundaries and he is so, God dang, that kid is something else. He came with great programming. I don't know where it came from because it can't possibly be us. He handles things a lot better than I do, or did at his age. For me, and I want you to learn this one. Here you go. This is how I managed to not say the things that I could rip people apart if I wanted to. I have a very hateful tongue if I let it happen. And believe me, I do not feel good after I do it. No. The shame spiral, if I let that go, oh, that's bad. And that's why it doesn't happen. Because I used to do it all the time. I grew up in a house where that's how we behaved with each other. There were no boundaries. There was nothing that could not be said. You could say the most hurtful thing ever to someone you loved in the house that I grew up in. And they just had to take it because you were mad or something bad happened or you were having a bad day. And so I grew up with that and I thought that that was normal. No, that's not normal. That's not how you treat people you love. It turns out you never yell at a child, I wish you were never born. Don't do that. Also, don't threaten them with homelessness. Also bad things. So what do? You've got this evil tongue that you were trained with from childhood, Melissa. How are you not using it? When I know it's coming, I become very quiet and I announce to whomever is in the room with me, nothing that comes out of my mouth is going to be good right now. And so I am going to be silent. Now, sometimes I leave the room because I need to go leave the room. I have mastered saying that and sitting in the same room with the other people. It's my most proud boundary thing. I can say that and not leave the room a lot of the time. And that is such a pattern interrupter for people who are like ready to go. They don't know what to do with that. They're like, she's not gonna talk. So we're not gonna do this. And when I tell you, I literally say, so I am going to become silent. I don't even say yes, no, I just sit there. And I've had people say, so we're not going to have this conversation. And I'll just be like, now I have dug extremely strong foundations with lots of therapy and self-talk and self-love. And, I read like every self-help book that's ever written. I'm constantly listening to podcasts. I pray, I meditate. I do all of these things so that I can sit in front of someone who's trying to push my buttons and be silent. And that just pushes very often some big red button on them that shuts them off. And I think of all of the years that I could have been doing that. And instead I just jumped into the fray and just went there with them, and then other people get involved, and then there's phone calls later from other relatives who are now involved because you called them, they called you, everybody called, everybody knows. It turns into a whole thing when really there is one person who is having a really bad emotional moment and they do not have the skills to process it. And they want to pull you in to that emotional tornado with them. And you want to go? You really want to go. But you're going to work on this, and you're going to develop this, and you're going to learn to say, nothing that's going to come out of my mouth right now is good, so I am going to become silent. I'm telling you, life-changing. Here's another one. Let's say you got people or person over the house and someone you love very much, someone maybe you have great conversations with, but the conversation is going in a direction that you do not feel comfortable with. Either it's dredging up some sort of trauma for you, is it triggering you in some way? Maybe they're just being asinine and you just can't filter it out right now. And you can't get away. And they're talking. They're talking, and you don't want to have this conversation. You just don't want to have this. You just don't want to talk about this. How the heck do I get out of that one, Melissa? You got a boundary for that? Yeah. You ready? Hey, yeah, this sounds like you're really into this. And I get that, but I'm just really not in a place where I can have this conversation right now. So can we talk about something else? You're like, that's not going to work on anybody I know. Have you tried? Have you tried and then stood your ground? Because sometimes you can say something like that and people just bulldoze right past you like you didn't say it. And this happens with someone I love dearly who does this to me on the regular, where I say that, I just say, I'm sorry, I really don't want to talk about this. This is just not a conversation I'm comfortable having right now. And they'll be like, well, if you don't feel comfortable, so I'm just not going to continue. So there's a couple options there. Sometimes I need to pull out the, okay, nothing that comes out of my mouth now, because sometimes when they do that, I'm just like, okay, now I cannot speak to you. But if I'm not yet at the point where the anger monster is going to come out and I just want to reestablish my boundaries, I love it when somebody says, it's all about you, isn't it? Because then I get to say, well, in a way it is, because I need to take care of myself and my mental health. That's my job, is to be the best person I can be. And for me to do that right now, I can't have the conversation. I just don't want to be a part of this conversation. And they can go walk, you can leave, they can be whatever, but don't take the bait when they try to call you out and make you feel bad for having a boundary and refusing to enter into a conversation. Now, I'm not saying that you should not have controversial debates and conversation, all of that stuff. What I'm saying is that you need to do it from a place and in a time when you are able to do it in a way that is not going to hurt you, trigger you, traumatize you, damage you, or damage your relationship with someone that you love. Boundaries are also for their protection. It's not easy. Boundaries are simple, but they're hard. And I haven't found a good book specifically about boundaries yet. I don't think anybody's written it yet, because people are still trying to figure it out. But if you listen to podcasts, self-help podcasts like Gabby Bernstein, Marie Forleo, Brene Brown is huge on boundaries. And she's helped me a lot to learn and understand about boundaries and how boundaries are. She said in one of her books that she does a lot of research, and their research has shown that the one thing that the most compassionate, open-hearted people have in common is ironclad boundaries. And you would think compassionate, open-hearted, like giving good people, right? You would think they would have no boundaries. I thought that that's what it meant to be a good person was, I'm all yours. I have no boundaries. Just pick me apart, use every ounce of me until there's nothing left of me. I thought that that's what it meant to be good, to be giving. It's like the giving tree, right? It ends up a stump and the old man can sit on it. There's something in there. But that is not what it means. Having boundaries is actually an act of compassion for others and for yourself. I would love to hear how you set boundaries in your life, or where you think you need to set boundaries in your life. In your relationships. Have you any examples of other things that work for you that might help other people? I think we can help each other so much if we share those things here. I know this video was a little bit all over the place. And so I hope, Elvira, you were able to edit it into something that works. Knowing you can. This probably isn't the only video that I'm going to make on this topic over the time that we are together here in the YouTube universe, but I really felt inspired today to make this video because I was actually listening to a podcast that had nothing to do with boundaries, and somehow during listening to that podcast, I got a really strong feeling. I was led to this feeling that there are people, someone's out there that need help with boundaries. And I want you to understand something. In people's purest, highest form, they all want the best for you. But sometimes their purest, highest form is just coated in crap from life. And so that doesn't get to communicate with you. And I have a dream and a hope and a belief that someday we do get to another place where we are just our purest, highest forms. And I believe that every person has that inside of them, remember. I'm not saying it doesn't hurt when people I love say things or do things that hurt me, but I do try to remember that underneath all of the hurt and the bad stuff that they've done to me is their purest, highest form, and that this person has been hurt and traumatized and beaten up by life so badly that they are just now this like monster of crap. And like my goal in life is like to try to scrape the crap off of myself constantly. It's like a lint roller, but like a scraping lint roller, to try to get as close to I can back to who I was when I first came here into this life, you know, that pure self. But not everybody's doing that work. Not everybody wants that. Not everybody's even cognizant that that is an option. But no matter how much they're pissing you off, just please remember that underneath it all, they are a human being. And that we need to show them love and compassion in order for us to get closer to our highest, most pure existence. So try to keep that in mind when you're setting those boundaries, okay? And I hope you will share. I really appreciate all of you, and I really think that we can get better together. Love you guys. Really, I do. And thank you for listening to me. Love you.